Wandering Winder here, continuing my look at openings. Today we're going to look at Church. So Church lets you save cards over for your next turn and then trash one at the start of that turn. There's two main things that I want to talk about with it regarding openings. So one of them is opening Church Church. Let's look at that first. If you open Church Church, you're trying to maximize your chances of hitting a price point. You want to max set aside on turn 3. You get to trash a card on turn 4, and then set some number of cards across the shuffle. Um, if you find at least one of your churches on turn 3, then you are very, very likely to uh, hit 5 on turn 4 if you do this max set aside plan. The only way that you don't is if you find your turn 3 hand is Church and 4 coppers, and then you also bottom deck. Uh, you set 3 coppers aside, and then you also need to bottom deck, coppers so that you don't have 2 in your next hand. So that's all quite unlikely. Although you might not find a church in turn 3 opening Church Church. So overall, if we're wanting to look at chances, you're like 70% to hit 5 or more opening Church Church. But then part of the nice thing is, most of the time when you're missing, you get to set aside a lot of cards. So let's say I didn't have uh, either of my churches on turn 3, and one of them bottom decked, and one of them was in my turn 4 hand. I say I buy silver here. So in this case, right, I have a pretty small shuffle here. So I'm very, very likely at this case, if I've missed, to be able to buy a 5 now on turn 5. And I might still even be able to play it on turn 6 because it's such a small shuffle. Now, in this case, I've already trashed, so usually in this case, your shuffle is going to be a 1 card bigger. But the point is, it's a small shuffle. You can save aside cards. And saving as many cards across the shuffle as possible is quite an advantage because it makes your shuffle smaller, so it gets you back to the cards you're buying more quickly. That is a big benefit of Church. So yeah, you're about 70% to hit 5 and 38% to hit 6. You have a real small chance of hitting 7. There is some negotiating you might need to do if you're trying to figure out, oh, well, I'd kind of like to buy this 2 cost, so maybe I don't set quite as much aside. Or, right, if I have 2 churches in my turn 3 hand, do I want to set one of them aside to try to be able to save a cross on turn 4? In general, I do like to be able to play that church turn 4, so I tend to like to save the church aside. But you are taking a hit in your chances of hitting 5, so it's just a situational by situational thing you have to take on the board, and sometimes even how the game is going, even at this early of a stage. But yeah, significantly lower chances of hitting 5 than something like Silver Silver, but the deck control benefits can often be worth it. I do quite like a Church Church Open. If we go back to the beginning of the game, the other thing to talk about, as I said, is Church Silver. So yeah, let's say we go Church Silver. Now here, again, if you hit the Church turn 3, you can do a max set aside and set yourself up for a big amount of money. Here we even hit 8, which can happen sometimes, although that's not super likely. Um, yeah, you are not that much more likely to hit 5 doing this than Church Church. You're only up to like 72%, so you only get a couple percentage points. You do get a good, significantly healthier chance of hitting 6, and even better than Silver Silver, right? You're 46.7% to hit 6 going Church Silver. And you actually have a substantial chance of hitting 7, right? 33.8%. And again, it's worth noting that a lot of times you're missing on this. You're finding the church on turn 4, have a good chance to hit it on turn 5 or something. So if you're going for a bigger price point than 5, church looks even more appealing, possibly with a silver, possibly Church Church still, although you're unlikely to hit particularly big price points on turns 3 and 4 going Church Church. But yeah, delaying it a little bit could be a thing. Yeah, so I quite often like opening church silver can happen sometimes, church and some other card in the kingdom, not an uncommon opening to be pretty good. Thanks for watching.